you can see, you can see from the agenda, Friuli had a complex history, as it usually happens in the borderlands. There have been different peoples who crossed, different populations who settled in this area over the centuries, such as the Celts, the Romans, and Longobards, for example. And all of them left important inheritance to the Friulian identity, to the Friulian culture. So what we are going to do is to analyze these historical moments through its heritage, so through its historical buildings and monuments that we can still visit today.
Patrizia, I'm just going to interrupt for a moment, please, and ask everyone if you could please mute your computers because we are getting some rebound. Thank you.
Okay. So after a general overview, I will present three famous UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Aquileia is one of the most important archaeological points, archaeological sites in Italy. Cividale and the artworks of the Lombard period. Then we have Palmanova, a massive fortress built by the Venetians, and the majestic Villa Manin, and last but not least, Udine, and the refined frescoes by the famous Venetian artist Giambattista Tiepolo. By the way, after seeing me, my face, you will wonder what is behind me on the background, right? It is Piazza Libertà, a terrific square in Udine, which is my home city, that can be considered the spiritual capital of Friuli. So let's talk now about the location. You know, I've been a regional tour guide for many years and realized that a lot of foreign visitors had never heard of Friuli Venezia Giulia. But also many Europeans and Italians have never been there. First of all, if you look on the map, we can see exactly the position, the location. It is in the most northeastern part of Italy. It's very close to Venice. It takes about 1.5 hours by car or train from Venice. Venice, the lagoon city called the Queen of the Adriatic. The region is also at the center of Europe. You may have a full-day trip to neighboring countries such as Austria and Slovenia. Croatia is also accessible easily. Just 2 hours by car, you can reach the Croatian islands. So let me show on using Google Map. Yeah. So can you see the screen? The Italian boot, can you recognize? Here we are. Okay. So let me zoom on the region. Yeah, we can start to see the first cities. We have Trieste that we mentioned before with some of you. We have Venice here. Udine, of course, Venice is not in the region because the border is between Veneto and Friuli is exactly along this line. And we have to the north, we have the border with Austria, which is here. And going down on the east side, we have the border with Slovenia. So as you can see to the north, we have, oh, what's going on? So, yeah. So, to the north, you can see the solid wall of the Carnic Alps here. The Tagliamento River, which is one of the longest rivers in Italy, is in the heart of Friuli here exactly. And in this area, we have the gorgeous hills of the wine country, and the southern part is a low coastal plain. To the southeast, here, this narrow corridor, we can say, this narrow strip of land is the province of Trieste. Trieste, the destination of our last webinar in June. So this is the area, this one is the area called Venezia Giulia, which covers about 30% of the region, and the rest, 70% is called the Friuli. So this is just to have an idea about the place and the location. So let me. Yeah. Okay. So reasons to visit Friuli Venezia Giulia. Laura, would you like to read some of them, please?
Unmute myself there. Okay, so reasons to visit Friuli Venezia Giulia include the history and the art cities, friendly local people, borderland, as has just been described, deliciously wild landscapes, hybrid cooking culture, slow travel, outdoor activities, including skiing, hiking, water activities. It's a white wine heaven, and the Slovenian, German, Italian cultural mashup.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, these are all only some of the reasons to visit this tiny place, this tiny destination, but it has so much to offer. Fascinating history, natural beauties. It's a ski destination as well, diverse landscapes, amazing wines. Heavy on the whites, but a couple of good reds too. Our cuisine combines local products with influences that are all over the map. Charming small towns, Europe's three principal cultures converge here: Latin, Slavic, and Germanic. And this is why Italians tend to see the region not really part, of their own nation as well. Friendly local people, they are hardworking and fanatical industrious, right? A region with three words. Most Italian regions have one-word names. For example, Liguria, Toscana, or Puglia. At this point, you may wonder why one of the smallest regions has a name with three words. And one of them is also the name of a city, Venice, Venezia, Venice, not even in the region. I'm going to explain it right now. Friuli comes from, the word Friuli comes from the contraction of two Latin words, Forum Iuli, which means Julius Forum. Julius was the great Roman emperor, founder of Cividale the Friuli, a Roman colony. The origin of the word Venezia, Venice in English, came back to the 19th century when it was decided to give an Italian connotation, an Italian meaning to the borderland, to this borderland during the Austrian domination that we had. The capital of the region is Trieste, which is a very cosmopolitan city located close to the border with Slovenia, we have seen before. It will be the main topic also of our last meeting at the end of June. Yeah, at the end of June. And most people in the region speak Italian, even if many speak Friulan, which is not a dialect, but a language with its own features, with its own characteristics. So what visitors say? Yeah, this is what some visitors say about the destination. Some of these reviews that you can read really show what is the nature of slow travel, which means connecting with local people, spending relaxing days off the beaten path, looking for a more authentic experience, or simply having time to slow down. Friuli Venezia Giulia offers all these things to the visitors so that you will not need a vacation from your vacation when you come back. You can easily spend 1 week there and find the right balance of your time, or you may also spend 10 days if you include for example, daily trips to the neighboring countries, Austria and Slovenia, for example. Also, the region has a fascinating Middle Europe meets Italy feeling. It is a Slovenian, German, Italian mashup, a combination exposed to different social and cultural identities. So what is Friuli Venezia Giulia famous for? Yeah, I'm sure you can recognize some brands such as the sweet, delicious prosciutto di San Daniele. You can recognize the brand of Illy Cafe and Crème Cafe from Trieste, which is the leading coffee importing and roasting city in Europe. The region is also the birthplace of grappa and the source of an astonishing variety of wines. Then we have the white and yellow polenta, eaten year-round. The Friulian menu, such as the chiarsons and the frico. Frico, you know, is a crisp made of Friulian Montasio cheese. It is the calling card, we can say, of most restaurants in Friuli. And we have amazing native white grapes like Tokai, Ribolla Gialla, Verduzzo. Also, we have the Frecce Tricolori air base near Udine, our national acrobatic team. The Barcolana, which is an international sailing regatta taking place in the Gulf of Trieste every year. Solari in Udine, an historic company producing industrial clocks exported all over the world. And if you like soccer, we have the Udinese, it's the local football team, which is very famous now because it plays in Serie A, one of the best teams in Italy. Yeah.
She didn't mention that in Spilimbergo, though.
Yeah, she did. She was there.
So,
She didn't mention it.
so let's talk now about Ippolito Nievo and the Compendium of the Universe. Let me read a brief description written in the 19th century by Ippolito Nievo, a famous Italian writer, not only a writer, he was also a journalist and a patriot who loved the region and wrote in his famous novel Confessions of an Italian, he wrote this sentence that is able to represent this place. Friuli è un piccolo compendio dell'universo, alpestre, piano e lagunoso, in 60 miglia, da Tramontana a Mezzodì. Friuli is a small compendium of the universe. Alpine, flat, and lagoon-filled, stretched amongst 60 miles from Tramontana to Mezzodì. Tramontana is a cold and strong wind coming from the north, from the Alps, and Mezzodì means midday. This is an excellent, I think, interpretation of what is this area. A surprising variety of landscapes, languages, and cultural identities. 1 century later, it must have been hot and sticky when Ernest Hemingway arrived in Lignano in 1954. Today, Lignano is the most popular beach in Friuli Venezia Giulia. This vintage photo portrays the great American writer emptying sand from his shoe against the backdrop and anything around. He was so fascinated by this place that he called it Italy's Florida. So I will show you a video now that through fantastic bird's eye shots praises the landscape, historical and natural biodiversity of this place. And let me show.
Patrizia, non si sente, sono Arianna, non si sente il volume perché avresti dovuto cliccare sotto share sound prima di share la PowerPoint. We can't hear the volume because you should have shared, clicked on share sound. But it's okay.
From Miramare. Did you see it?
Yes.
Miramare?
You know, they should tell you.
I know, that's what I was gonna say.
I'm really disappointed.
Thank you.
Okay. So this amazing video, can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can hear
we-
you, Patrizia.
Okay, fine. Okay.
We can hear you, but we can also hear the people who have a phone number 1306. We can hear their conversation. So if they kindly would mute themselves, then we wouldn't have to. Thank you.
Okay. So this amazing video was presented for the first time at Expo 2015, hosted by Milan. And it was a really great occasion to promote the region over the Italian borders. Yeah. So let's talk about the historical background. As you can see, the history of the region is very, very complex. Between the 5th and 6th century, the barbarian invasions set the entire West in turmoil with tragic consequences, especially for Friuli, the passageway for all invaders coming from the northeastern Alps. If you think that to the east, we have the Carso Plateau, which is only 300 meters high. So it's very easy to pass through it. And one of the most ancient peoples were the Celts, who inhabited the local mountains in the 5th century before Christ. Then they moved to the plain looking for better life conditions, to find a better situation, but they were immediately stopped by the Romans. In this picture here, you can see the Celtic Ippogeum that you can also visit in Cividale del Friuli. It is an underground chamber used, maybe, we are not sure, for funeral rites. This is a place of mystery that anyone who likes archaeology and ancient cultures would love it. And let's talk now about the first UNESCO heritage site, the Roman city of Aquileia. It is located in the Friulan plain, only 8 kilometers from the Adriatic coast. And it was one of the most important cities of the Roman Empire. Founded in 181 before Christ, in its maximum splendor,
eventi
the
più
city,
riusciti, ci sono 95 persone collegate.
the city had 100,000 inhabitants, which means a lot for that time. There were many public buildings, a forum, a theater, an amphitheater, bars, elegant domus, elegant houses. There was an imperial palace. So when the emperor, the Roman emperor, came to visit Aquileia, he had his own residence. The Romans founded the colony, the city, in this location to defend, to protect the northeastern border of the empire. but also for another reason, to use, this colony as a springboard for their conquest campaigns towards the eastern countries. And they were successful. They moved, they managed to move the border to Hungary, to present Hungary. By the way, in one of these pictures, we can see what is called the Great Mausoleum, we say in Latin. It's a large tomb visible from the main street, built probably for a very important person, maybe a high magistrate. So the forum was the heart of the civil and religious Roman life. It was used for ceremonies, electoral meetings, trials, and it was a meeting point also for entrepreneurs and merchants. In the pictures, you see the Aquileian Forum placed right in the middle of the town, on the crossroads between the Cardo and the Maximum Decumanus, the two main streets crossing each other. It was paved with Carso stones, with a local stone, and surrounded by a small canal that you can see of the rainwaters flowing. Some columns have been rebuilt, integrating the missing parts with brick material. It is interesting to notice here that all the columns fell down on the same side, probably because of an earthquake. Yeah, we are always in Aquileia with the river port. Aquileia was built on this specific location, on this spot, because there was a 50-meter wide river that allowed large ships to reach the Adriatic Sea and trade with the Mediterranean countries, from where they mainly imported oil and spices. Not wine, because the Romans were great wine producers in these lands, so they don't need to import it. From Northern Europe, they imported wood to build ships, of course, and iron for weapons. The famous amber also came from the Baltic Sea, from the north, that the Romans thought that the amber had a magical power, a sort, we can say, kind of amulet, able to protect the person who wore it. In these pictures, you can notice the two quays, so the two benches on the west side of the river. It's built in Istria stone. It means that it comes, this kind of stone comes from Istria, and it's a very particular material because it's able to resist to the water. You know, it's the most resistant to the water corrosive action. And they were long, about 300 meters. These benches were quite long. And it's also possible here, exactly in this point, there are some mooring rings. You can see some mooring rings, very well preserved. The Domus of Tito Macro, is one of the largest residences from the Roman time among those found in northern Italy. It is the most recent discovery in Aquileia and open to the visitors only I think, 1 year ago. It's quite recent. The massive archaeological intervention here brought back to life the rooms of an elegant domus with an area of 320 square meters of floors decorated with mosaics and dated back to the 1st century before Christ. During the excavations, they found a gold ring, over 1,000 golden coins, and some of them were hidden by the wealthy owner in a hole of the atrium area during the barbarian invasions in the 5th century. The building had a central basin for collecting water. There is a well, a reception room, and a garden surrounded by a mosaic floor equipped with a fountain. Let's talk about the archaeological museum in Aquileia. I would recommend to spend a couple of hours at the museum. If you love, of course, the Roman history, you cannot miss it. Absolutely. You will find several objects of the daily life, such as glassware, coins, utensils, interesting mosaics depicting different scenes, such as the famous Azaroton that you can see on the left side. Azaroton, it's a Greek word. We can translate it in English with unswept floor, full of food waste, leaves. You can see fish bones as well. This kind of scene usually paved the floors of the dining rooms, the triclinium. It was a way to hide what fell down during the meals, but it is also related to a popular ancient belief, which said that cleaning the floor after eating brings bad luck. The museum reminds us how much the Romans brought to civilization. Well worth a visit here, absolutely. So the ancient metropolis of the Roman Empire. Today Aquileia is a small town, but let me show you the fascinating 3D reconstruction of Aquileia in the Roman period, with the most important buildings, the amphitheater, the circus, the tombs, which were outside the city along the main roads, according to the ancient Roman laws. So let's start our navigation through the ancient Aquileia.
Patrizia, it's better if you check the box share sound. Otherwise, we cannot hear the sound. In the previous video, we couldn't hear the sound. So I think you have to get out of the PowerPoint and click share sound at the. Do you know how to do it?
Actually, no, and I can hear
so
you.
You stop sharing.
I am the only one, so that I can hear. Yeah. So stop share. Okay.
Yes, And then do share again, go to where you have to share. And before you share, you will see that there is a box that you have to check at the bottom left. In basso a sinistra c'è un quadratino che devi cliccare.
Share sound here. Okay.
Yes. And
okay.
then you can share the PowerPoint again, and we will hear the sound in the video.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
Is it working? Okay.
Yes, it
thank
works.
you. Thank you. Mm. Okay. So amazing reconstruction. Now you may wonder what happened to this massive city when the Roman Empire started to decline, and with the barbarian invasions, of course, Aquileia was completely destroyed by Attila, the king of the Huns. That was so hard to recognize its original site. The locals escaped to the island of Grado, which is 8 kilometers from there, where they settled in 452. But I would like to come back for a while and saying that more than 1 century earlier, something very important happened in Aquileia, which became the center of the early Christianism in northern Italy. We can consider it the spreading point of the Christian faith. I'm sure you have visited basilicas, cathedrals, churches around the world, but this one is really impressive with beautiful mosaics and frescoes. it's highly recommended. The 11th century building that you can see here in the picture is connected through a hall that leads to the center of an external baptistry with the ancient font in its center. Forget for a moment the present basilica and look at the map. On the left side, you can see the two first Christian rooms built in the 4th century, just after Christianity started being tolerated in the Roman Empire. And thanks to the Emperor Constantino, early Christians had the freedom to have meeting places to pray. These two rooms that we can see on the map had different functions. One was reserved for the Mass, and the other one for the neophytes, the new believers, and both were paved with marvelous mosaics that we are going to see in a minute. After a very short time, they decided to cover them to build a new higher floor. So it means that they remained underground for centuries. This is why they are very well preserved, and we can see them in the basilica nowadays. Yeah, the largest and most ancient Christian mosaic floors still in existence, dating from the 4th century. The basilica is a must for mosaic lovers. Inside, as you can see, there are extensive mosaic floors, considered the largest early Christian mosaic in the world. It has no equal, even in Rome. 7,000 square feet, UNESCO World Heritage Site, full of religious symbolism, messages addressed to the first Christians, to the first Christian believers. They were not, of course, able to read at that time. On the mosaics, we have several different animals representing sheep, goats, tortoise, peacock, different kind of fish, especially in the extensive Jonas mosaic that we see right now in the next slide. So let me show you in details. This is a huge part of the floor representing Jonah's story, where there is an extensive sea. At the center of the great fishing scene, there are 3 well-known episodes related to Jonas. The prophet had received a task from God. He was asked to convert a population, but he refused to do it and tried to escape from the divine punishment. So Jonas embarked on a fishing boat. You can see the scene on the left side. Yeah. And but this boat was soon hit by a very strong sea storm. The fisherman realized that he was the reason for that and threw him overboard. His body was swallowed by a sea monster or whale. It depends according to the different translations, because we have the translation from Greek and then Latin. But he remained for 3 days in his body, which is a symbol of rebirth, the rebirth of Jesus Christ. In the last scene on the right side, Jonas comes out of the animal's body and rests peacefully under a pumpkin's pergola, yes, arbor, which represents the paradise in a very relaxing environment. Beside the biblical story, please observe the surprising sea environment, different kind of fish handled realistically. Only the fishermen are unreal, as they are portrayed as winged cupids. But they are 12 in number. They represented the 12 apostles, and the act of fishing is preaching and inviting new believers to the church. We are always in the basilica, exactly in the crypt of the frescoes. The crypt was created to provide a wharfy setting for the holy relics that still today form the treasure of the church of Aquileia. The ceiling and the walls were covered with frescoes in the 12th century in a Byzantine style, carried out by expert Venetian painters with an excellent formation. The 24 scenes on the ceiling tell us the life of Saint Ermacora. The first Ermacora was the first bishop of Aquileia, and we can see also his martyrdom is represented also on the walls, because he was killed. Exactly, he was decapitated by the Roman soldiers as he did not want to refuse the Christian faith. So what happened after the destruction of the city of Aquileia? The survivors moved to Grado, very close, only 8 kilometers from there. A nice beach resort today called the Golden Island. For this reason, it was a natural environment, a natural protection, we can say, the ideal place to escape from the barbarian invasions. So the Christian community settled there in the 5th century, when Venice did not exist yet. The first settlement in the Venetian lagoon was Torcello Island, 2 centuries later. This is why Grado is called the mother of Venice. And Aquileia was important because it was the spreading point of the Christian faith in northern Italy. So before moving on, we can have a break. We can have a break for questions, comments on the first part, or yeah.
Yeah. So yes, please, if you have any questions, feel free just to speak out, or you can enter them into the chat box and I can read them here. So far, thank you again to everybody for muting. So if you do open up to chat, please make sure you remute yourself afterwards, as we have a large number of participants tonight. But just to start, Patrizia, what an amazing region. And certainly I would have to say that I feel very fortunate to have visited many places in Italia, but not this place yet. And as we go forward with our opportunities to travel, you're presenting a beautiful picture of just what this area has to offer. The mosaics in the basilica is just something that must be breathtaking to experience. So we have is it Michelle saying that so far very informative, and thank you. Any other comments, any questions for Patrizia at this time?
There was a question before. Io Vancouver was asking, why is it an autonomous region? I don't know whether you have already explained that.
No, not yet. This is a good question. In Italy, we have 5 autonomous regions, they're called also special regions, you know, and especially if they are borderlands, they have a specific situation, you know, and the government, also the Italian government, wanted to leave them this autonomy, especially to manage the different identities, you know, that we have, and we talked before as well. Yes. Autonomy means also the capacity, you know, for the local government to decide about some specific topics. Yeah, especially referred to the identities. In this case, in this specific case for our region, related to the language minorities, you know, in order to protect them, yeah, and to maintain, to conserve them, yeah.
You mentioned that Friulan is an independent language. I personally always thought it was a dialect, so that was very informative. The language goes back, I'm assuming, to the very beginning of time in the region. And was it based on Latin, or is it a combination of the border countries as well?
Yeah, this is another good point that we are going to talk specifically also next in the next evening when we will analyze deeply also the Friulan culture. But I can say, yeah, it's a language, it's not a dialect, and it's called the Romance language. In some ways, we have a lot of influence of the Latin languages, of course. Languages that comes from Latin, but also several words coming from Germanic language, you know, Celts. Yeah, it's a mix of a lot of influences for historical reasons that we have already seen.
And I'm imagining.
And I want, sorry, Laura, I would like to add also that it's very difficult to understand as well.
Okay.
Also for Italians, impossible, absolutely impossible. Also for Italian people.
So does the region, through being autonomous, continue to really promote with children or university students the adoption of the language to keep it going for the next generations?
They are trying to do that. It's hard anyway to maintain the local language. They are doing at school as well with some courses. They are not compulsory, of course, but you know, not so much in the big cities. They are able to preserve the language, but especially in the small towns, it's much easier to continue. Yeah, the language, and there are so many projects also that the local government are supporting in order to continue, even if it's not easy to do.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have from Rosanna, she's commenting on the wonderful visuals of tonight's presentation. And we don't have any real further comments at this time, so we'll continue on, and then perhaps we'll have a few more items to discuss at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
So everyone, please mute yourselves again. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on. And yeah, we are now in Cividale del Friuli. Cividale del Friuli. As a Longobard site, Cividale is on UNESCO list. It is a little medieval pearl, we can say, with a long history, founded in Julius Caesar's time. Walking through the town will bring you back to the past. I would highly suggest to wander around if you go there to sit and drink something.
You're muted.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I was saying that we were talking about the Cividale, okay? And in the picture here, you can see the ancient bridge. It's called the Ponte del Diavolo over the Natisone River. Is unforgettable. Even just by stopping in one of the coffee shop or restaurants and looking at the buildings around you would make you think and wonder how it is possible that so many years of different invasions and dominations brought not just destruction, but also beauty built on previous ruins. Let me show you a short video about the little gem with an ancient medieval charm. If it works. I hope with the sound.
Yes, it works. Yes, it
Okay,
works. Patrizia.
good, thank you. Yes, amazing. Yeah, wonderful. So as much as I love the Roman Empire, I like to discover more about other past Italian civilizations. And one of the most important ones was the Longobard, for sure. And it gave a definite different culture flavor to this part of Italy. The Lombard invasion of Italy in 568 had also a beneficial effect for Friuli. The fusion, the combination of this group of Germanic origin with the local Romanized population helped the development of the Friulan culture. They came originally from Scandinavia, as you can see on the map on the left side, then moved to the Elbe River, to the mouth of the Elbe River, and then moved again to present Hungary on around the Balaton Lake. Attracted, of course, by the Italian sun, by the Italian climate. About 100,000 Longobards entered Italy with the intention of living there permanently, and carried everything they had on their wagons. The first place they occupied was Cividale and the whole region, but later they conquered large parts of Italy. We did not have ancient written documents from them. The first one is Historia Longobardorum, or History of the Lombards, written in Latin by Paolo Diacono, born in Cividale in the 8th century. So what happened? Conversion, to the Catholicism. The Lombard invasion of Italy, had this positive effect, we can say. When they arrived in Italy, the Longobards were warriors, physically strong, tall. They did not meet any opposition. Became the new landowners, but they were defeated culturally. They started to dress local clothes and they learned Latin. At first, they were Arians. They did not believe in the divine nature of Jesus Christ. But thanks to the Queen Theodolinda, they formally converted to the Christianism. Like all the new believers, they wanted to show their faith. They started to build churches, monasteries, dedicated to warrior saints, such as St. Michael or Gabriel, because it reminded their warrior past. The Lombard invasion of Italy, in 568, had also this beneficial, we can say, effect for Friuli. And this is why they created this fascinating religious artworks that we can see here. The altar of Duke Ratkis and the baptistry of Callisto that we have seen also in the video, that I really recommend to visit if you go to Cividale. And they are displayed in the Christian Museum of the town. Tempietto Longobardo, this tiny religious chapel in Cividale, remains a wonder that shouldn't be missed. This temple is the most important example of Lombard architecture. The frescoes are and the carvings are exquisite. The highlight of the inner decoration is the elegant stucco ornaments depicting 6 female saints. And the frescoes showing Byzantine influence, and the marble sculptures are also beautiful and carefully restored. The chapter is hidden inside the monastery of Santa Maria in Valle, and is the best preserved temple coming from the 8th century. So at the beginning of the 11th century, Friuli had an independent feudal state, political organization ruled by the local church. The patriarch behaved in the manner of a great feudal lord, the true lord of Friuli, as we can read in this description. As secular prince, the patriarch was subject only to the emperor and had full sovereignty over his own territories. He had a voice in foreign and domestic policies, adjudicated feudal matters, and presided over a court of appeals in civil and criminal cases. He coined his own money and collected tariffs and income taxes. He was head of an army and decided matters of war and peace. This is the description of the patriarch, of the bishop, written by Giancarlo Menis, a very famous local historian, in a book that is, if you want to know more deeply, it's called Storia del Friuli, History of Friuli. Yes. So here you can see how large was the patriarchal state and the Friulan flag. Friuli acquired its independent historical identity, and the patriarchal had a very huge patrimony. And the Friulan church played also a wide socio-political role until the Venetian period. The patriarch's first duty was, of course, military defense. A permanent system of castles were added to offer resistance to enemy attacks from all sides. It's not surprising that in Friuli of course, not now anymore, but there were more than 300 castles in the medieval period, the biggest number in Italy. And most of them were destroyed by earthquakes, but some of them can be still visited, such as the Villalta Castle near Udine, that you can see in the picture here. It's very well preserved. We can notice the circular shape typical of Germanic castles. The most ancient tower, the Torre Maestra, where all family members used to live at the beginning and is still visible. Venetian period in Friuli. In 1420, the Republic of Venice, the Queen of the Adriatic, conquered Friuli and the large part of the Venetian mainland. It had been a great maritime power up to that point, but the trades of the city were not going very well. So the lagoon city started to invest in land, but also wanted to defend its eastern border from possible Austrian and Turkish attacks. It was a real challenge. The Turks had already made 2 invasions in Friuli and had reached the surroundings of Vienna. Talking about the Venetian fortress, Palmanova, It was built by the Venetian Republic in the 16th. The beginning was the 16th and 17th century to prevent these attacks from Austrian and Turkish forces. And its construction took about a century to complete. Built in a concentric star formation, the town consists of three rings, which were built in stages, in different stages. The entire town is surrounded by a moat with 9 arrow-shaped ramparts that extended behind the town so that the points could defend each other. Entrance to the town is allowed through 3 guarded gates. Each road and move was carefully assessed, and each part of the plan had a reason for being. Each person would have the same amount of responsibility and land, and each person had to serve a specific purpose. However, despite the pristine new conditions and elegant layout of the new city, no one chose to move there. Because it was a military city. This was the main reason. And in desperation, the Venetian government sent a number of prisoners in 1622 and gave them property in Palmanova. I would like to use now again, Google Map. Oh, here we are. We are in front of one of the gates, and you can see how it is. Here we have one of the ramparts, the moat here. The interesting thing, you know, is that if I move, okay, there, for example, this point, okay. Okay, you can see Palmanova from outside. It is the town is completely hidden. You cannot see anything from outside because the purpose was to remain completely hidden from the enemy. But if we go inside, okay, before entering, you can see the second rampart. The moat on the other side. It's possible also to walk around when you go there, to turn around the whole fortress. And I want to show you also here, there are, can you see these gates, these galleries? Actually, they are tunnels, but it's not possible to go inside anymore. They were used from the soldiers to escape far away using these secret passages. And one of them here is I mean, you can go inside and visit one of this tunnel connecting the most external military structures there. Yeah, here there is the tunnel. So they were able to extend, to go there without being seen. And let's go inside. Okay, you can see here one of the gate, the fire, of course, for the soldiers, and all the streets have this radial system, so they go straight to the main square with an hexagonal form Here you can see also the statues of the Venetian representatives, even if nobody wanted to come here because they prefer, they were usually noblemen and they preferred to stay in Venice instead of coming here. It was quite dangerous. So, yeah. Oh, here again. Yeah. Wow, this is another marvelous villa that we have. It's called the Villa Manin, and it's placed in Passariano, which is for those who love history. This is another must. Villa Manin was the residence of the last Doge of the Republic of Venice. The architecture is geometrically pleasing with long columned walkways, acting as arms embracing the main residence and extensive lawns and plantings. This villa is a typical example of how Friuli Venezia Giulia has the most amazingly interesting monuments and little tourism. Napoleon lived here for some time during the negotiations of Trattato di Campoformido, where he betrayed Venice Republic and gave it to Habsburg family. The villa is set in a beautiful location. There is a display also of historical carriages in the stables, and it is open to the public and is often the site of special events such as concerts and temporary exhibition. Udine, last but not least, my hometown. You can see Piazza Libertà is probably the most spectacular and impressive place of the city, especially due to the wonderful Venetian style. You can see the clock tower, the city hall, different statues, a column with the lion of St. Mark's, symbol of Venice rule over the city, a Renaissance fountain, such a concentration of gems, which is unbelievable, and best of it, it is quiet and not packed with visitors, even in high season. The city is a perfect sample of the Italian history and also of today's way of life. You get to see the locals live their normal lives. You can rest in the piazzas and enjoy seeing people going back and forth without the crowds, the touristic crowds. Loggia del Lionello. Yeah, it's not surprising if one thinks that Udine was part of the Venetian Republic. Very similar. This building is very similar to the Doge's Palace in Venice. This beautiful building is very well preserved with Oriental influences. The walls are in stripes of pink and cream. It has a large open space bordered by open arches, and the floor is made up of marble tiles, where there is also an ancient meteorological device which measured the temperature. Yes, and then we have the Udine Castle. Udine Castle, which is I highly recommend also to visit this place, because to go on the top of the hill, you have a marvelous view also of the whole city. It's fantastic. And inside there is also this Salone del Parlamento. This is something very interesting to know, that Friuli and Udine specifically had the first form of parliament in Europe in a very ancient time, where all the social classes were represented. And Piazza San Giacomo, it offers everything you can expect from an Italian square: the living room atmosphere, gorgeous architecture, interesting shops, very sunny and elegant square. It's a very harmonious square with quite beautiful arched buildings surrounding it. And it's probably one of the busiest squares in the city, with many bars and restaurants, a good place for eating and drinking while watching the people's movement. And a friendly, welcoming, hopping square, we can say, that offers you the chance to enjoy a refreshing drink as you watch the world go by, or to shop at the elegant shops that surround the square. And yeah, frescoes in the patriarchal palace in Udine. If you come to Udine and want to have a great artistic and cultural experience, do not miss visiting the patriarchal palace and Giambattista Tiepolo's frescoes, the last painter of the Baroque style, who decorated prestigious Italian palaces and villas. The royal, for example, also the royal palace in Stockholm, the residence of Würzburg in Germany, and became the official painter of the royal family in Spain at the end of his life. Around 1726, Tiepolo came to the Friulan city for the first time, and he was not famous yet. He was only 30, but he had already reached full maturity of expression, as you can see in these pictures. Stunning rooms where the highlights are the walls and the ceiling entirely painted by the great artist. In detail here, you can see the biblical episode when the angel announces Sarah's motherhood. Despite her age, she was 90 and awaited God's promise all her life. This is why her face, her expression is so surprised and incredulous. And then we have Oratorio della Purità. This is another church that we have in Udine. Do not skip this chapel, this church on your visit to Udine. The building was originally a theater, but was converted to a beautiful chapel with magnificent paintings of Giambattista Tiepolo. When he came back to Udine for the second time, he decorated the ceiling with one of his masterpieces, the Assumption, which shows his mature technical ability to compose extensive scenes. Bright in color and light-hearted in mood, his paintings are full of elegance and poetry. He was really able to offer a convincing effect of daylight. So, and if you want to know more, I can advise you these websites, and the first one is very well done, and is the tourism board, the official website of the tourism board of the region. The second one is a book, or also on the website of the Lonely Planet. You can find interesting information. The third one is the Fondazione Aquileia, and you can see all the 3D reconstructions, not only that one that we have seen together, but there are more videos that you can see there. And Associazione Guide Turistiche, of course, is it was my association of tour guides. And also there in that website, you can find very description with many details. And the last one is the book, if you want to know more about the history. Yeah, our next webinar will be in 2 weeks, June the 10th, and it will be about the Friulan culture, language, cuisine, prosciutto, the mosaic school of Spilimbergo, and the strong bond between Canada and Friuli. We will talk about the earthquake that we had in 1976, but also the reconstruction, the emigration, very strong emigration, and we will talk also about the Friulan communities in Canada. There are so many communities also here. So,
what a wonderful presentation. And we have a few comments, mostly complimenting on the beautiful area and how inspirational your presentation has been. We also have the comments that Cividale, yes, Cividale is very reminded Elizabeth of Ravenna, and Linda, it reminded her of Ljubljana. So there seems to be some people that feel that there's a similarity to some of these other countries. People are saying that this has been so informative and they can't wait to travel. Thank you, Patrizia. A great presentation, and that was from Jessica this evening. Just a beautiful, beautiful area. I think so rich with every possible opportunity for people to enjoy everything they like: history, the outdoors, sports. And I imagine that you make recommendations for many different ways that people could travel, for example, by bike or walking tours. I imagine that all of these forms of travel are able for people to participate in. And from what you've presented so far, it would seem like you'd really want to spend some time here. You don't want to just come in for a couple of days and leave the area. It's just so rich with everything that you've described so far.
Absolutely, you're right. And thank you for all these comments and for appreciating the region. I really recommend, yes, to stay for a longer time, at least also 1 week. I say you can, for example, staying in Udine, which is in the center of the region, and then you can have daily trips, you know, to Aquileia, to Cividale, and many other sites. Or you can stay also more, 10 days, and have daily trips outside of the region, in other nations, in other countries, in Slovenia and Austria as well, or Venice. If you, for example, you can go to Venice, and then after that, if you want to have to spend a relaxing time, you can come to Friuli, for sure.
So we have a question here, and it is from Fatima. She's just wondering, when we get around to the 4th and last presentation, will that be on June 29th or 30th? I can't recall exact the date.
Sorry? Yeah, it's the 29th.
It's the 29th. Okay, great. And then from Alida Mackenzie, a comment. Thank you very much. My father was from Feltre, very close to Udine. Architecture similar, made me very nostalgic. Also grew up in the east side of Vancouver where there are and were many Friulani and had the banquet hall, which is still part of the Fame Friulan, which I know you are involved with, Patrizia.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate.
Kathy is saying that I'll just move, I'm sorry. Oh, I just went too fast on my screen there. Back to Kathy. Again, coming from that area, history coming from that area. We have, yes, just many comments of just how beautiful the area. Kathy was saying that her father immigrated to Canada from Udine area in 1929, but died when I was too young to ask questions of his home country. This presentation means so much to me. So thank you very much for that comment. My grandma was from Fogana, F-A-G-A-G-N-A, Fogana.
Pagania, yes. Pagania, yes.
Okay, and
it's close to San Daniele, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so lots of, I think you've really struck a chord with many people here tonight with this presentation and inspired us again to do some research and think about our future travel plans. I'm not sure if there's any other comments that people want to make for tonight's presentation. I'm just a little bit curious. One last thing is currently now in the cities like Udine and the others that you've mentioned tonight, are there strong populations there? Are they, is the economy mostly driven by tourism, or are there other real economic factors still in play for this region?
Yeah, I mean, the most touristic parts are Aquileia, of course, and Trieste, the Venezia Giulia, the eastern part. And Udine, it's not so much touristic, even if I really think it has the potential to become more touristic, as we have seen. But there are other kinds of economies. It's based on other kind of economies. Even if the local, the local authorities are doing a lot in the last 10 years to promote also the city in a touristic way, especially addressed to the European tourism, in order to invite tourists from the surrounded European countries. Yeah.
We have a question here from Renato, and that's another curiosity. What drew so many Friulani to Vancouver? When was the bulk of the immigration to Canada?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. The question was from Renato. What drew so many Friulani to Vancouver? And when was the bulk of the immigration to Canada?
We can say that the immigration from Friuli will be a topic of the next event, but I can anticipate that we have also in the last century, starting from the last century, a huge immigration, a lot of huge immigration from Friuli to not only to Canada, but also to US, to Australia, for example. Thousands of people emigrated. The reason is that the region was economically poor and based on substantially on an agricultural economy until the earthquake, we can say 1976, when we started to have an improvement of our economy. But before that time, it was not a good situation, I mean, economically speaking. So emigration is something that started a long time ago. Not only in Vancouver, but if you think, for example, also in Toronto, we the Fogolârs, the delegation includes 16 different cities, you know, in Canada, only in Canada. Just to imagine how large, how huge is this kind of phenomenon of the migration.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that part in part 2. So from here on now, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Patrizia, again, such an informative and beautifully presented part 1. We really do look forward to part 2, which will continue on Thursday, June 10th, again in English, here on Zoom at 7 p.m. So we welcome you all back at that time and hope that we'll see so many familiar faces at the second session. Thank you again, Patrizia.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Participation. It's been really wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you. Buona serata.
Buona serata a tutti.
Arrivederci a tutti.
Arrivederci.
Ciao a tutti, buona serata. Grazie. Grazie a tutti.